Hello everyone, LA Lim coming at you. It is another beautiful day in Los Angeles, and you know what time it is. It is time for another episode of the greatest albums of all time. That's right, this is episode 4 in my series of honoring the great recorded albums in music history. In our first 3 episodes, I profiled the Marvin Gaye 1971 classic What's Going On, the Beatles 1967 epic album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. In episode 3 last week, profiled the Temptations' great 1967 album called With a Lot of Soul. Well, this is the 4th episode. This is the 4th week, and we're going to bring it up to the 70s, the mid-70s, which was truly my formative years as far as finding myself and where I stood musically, or as Dick Clark once said, the musical soundtrack of our lives. And in the 70s, mid-70s, in my formative years is where I've truly found my voice and found my love for great recorded albums. The 1970s period, if the 1960s were dominated by doo-wop groups, along with the Beatles, then the 1970s was truly the decade of the great bands. It was an era of great bands and an era of great albums. And amongst the greatest bands of that decade, of course, was Earth, Wind and Fire, Parliament Funkadelic, the Eagles, Kool and the Gang, the Ohio Players, Journey, Foreigner, the Doobie Brothers. It was great bands in that decade. But the band and the album I'm going to profile today really stood out as a band. It was probably different from any other band of that period. Probably one of the most important things that you need for a band in order for a band to truly work is synergy. Guys who can really work well together, play well together, relate well together, and love each other. Really said, I love these guys. I will go to war with them. I will go on stage with them, and that's really probably some of the main ingredients you need in formulating and maintaining the life of a great band. Well, this band I'm about to profile is probably a band that may not have ever heard of the word synergy, at least as it related to their personal love and affection for them, because quite contrary, when they recorded this album, synergy as well as far as how they personally related to each other probably didn't exist. However, how they related as a musical band was at its epic moment at the time that they recorded this album. Recorded in the mid-70s, the band I am profiling this week is called Fleetwood Mac, and the album I am profiling, amongst the greatest albums of all time, recorded in 1976 and released in early 1977, was the great epic album called Rumors. Fleetwood Mac, a band that came out of England, was originally formed by 2 guys. A guy named Mick Fleetwood, who played the drums, and John McVie, who played the bass guitar. And this band had various members throughout the late 60s and late 70s before they crossed the pond and became an LA-based band. But the incarnation of the group that recorded the great album Rumors consisted of course, Mick Fleetwood on drums, John McVie on bass, Lindsey Buckingham on guitar, Christy McVie on the piano, and Stevie Nicks on vocals. This band, the five of them got together in 1976 to record this album, but there was a lot of personal and internal strife within this band. John McVie and Christine McVie were going through a divorce and a terrible breakup at that. So they weren't on speaking terms, and the few times that they did speak, they were arguing with each other, at least as it is documented in many books and other passages. The other couple in the group, Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, was also in the middle of a breakup. So a lot of the songs, in fact, most of the songs on the album Rumors are crafted around the personal and emotional strife that the five members were going through, particularly the two couples. But within that strife, they managed to create some of the best, most symphonic sounds in pop music. Amongst that album, the songs in that album were 4 great songs that all made the top 10. You Can Go Your Own Way, You Make Loving Fun, Don't Stop, and their only #1 song ever recorded by Fleetwood Mac, song written by Stevie Nicks called Dreams. Those 4 songs and all of the songs on that album, again, written about the emotional strife and turmoil that each member was going through, probably crafted some of the best, most intricate harmonies you will ever hear in pop music. The songwriters of this band and the vocalist, Christine McVie on piano, Lindsey Buckingham on guitar, and Stevie Nicks on vocals, the 3 of them created extraordinary harmonies on each of their songs, and the craftsmanship as far as the engineering and producing was second to none. Recorded up in Sausalito, at a studio that was the recording studio that Sly and the Family Stone used a lot. They went up there to kind of isolate themselves from Los Angeles and all that goes on there, and tried to come together as a group to record this album. Because of all of the emotional issues with this group, it took them nearly a year to record it. But once this recording was finished, this epic album was released, and it made pop history. In the year 1977, it spent 31 non-consecutive weeks as the #1 album in pop music on the Billboard pop charts. It is amongst the greatest selling albums of all time, selling over 40 million copies worldwide in what would be its 40th anniversary of release. February 77, and it's the year 2017. And this album has now been out for 40 years, and it has sold well over 40 million copies worldwide. The album Rumors was honored in every way you can imagine, including winning the Grammy Award in 1978 for Album of the Year of 1977, beating out the Eagles' great album Hotel California. Again, these extraordinary musicians, despite the strife and emotional issues they were all going through, all came together to record a magnificent masterpiece of an album. And that album was called Rumors, released in February 1977. And if you've never sat down to listen to these albums, listen to these pop symphonies, and be amazed at the intricacy and craftsmanship, and particularly the lyrics of these songs. Rumors by Fleetwood Mac, one of the greatest albums ever recorded. This is L.A. Lim coming at you again This, again, episode 4 in the series, The Greatest Albums of All Time. I invite your comments. Please comment, tell me what you got to say about what my thoughts are. If you like rumors, if you don't like rumors, if you've never heard of rumors, put it up on iTunes. Go to Google. Listen to some of the great tracks on it. Read about it. There is probably enough to read about that album itself to fill probably a whole book about a band called Fleetwood Mac. And again, the album Rumors was one of the greatest albums ever recorded. This is L.A. Lim coming to you. As always, I wish to say to you that love is life. Share your love, show agape love, and be a blessing to someone today. Tell someone that you haven't told or talked to in a long time ago that you love them. It's L.A. Lim saying, ciao bella.